A manhunt is underway after the killing of a health insurance executive. That's where we're starting the 7 from the Washington Post. I'm Hannah Jewell. It's Thursday, December 5th. Let's get you caught up with today's 7 stories. The CEO of UnitedHealthcare, Brian Thompson, was shot and killed early yesterday morning outside of a Midtown Manhattan hotel. Police said this was not a random act of violence. They called it a brazen, targeted attack. NYPD Chief of Detectives Joseph Kenney described how it happened.
What we know is that the shooter arrived at the location on foot about 5 minutes prior to the victim's arrival. He stands alongside the building line as numerous other people and pedestrians pass him by. The shooter steps onto the sidewalk from behind the car. He ignores numerous other pedestrians, approaches the victim from behind, and shoots him in the back. The shooter then walks toward the victim and continues to shoot.
Police said the suspect fled the scene on foot and then on a bike. He was last seen in Central Park and is still at large. Thompson was 50 years old. He had been the CEO of the nation's largest health insurance company since 2021. Number 2. Pete Hegseth's confirmation as defense secretary is hanging in the balance. Hegseth is a veteran and a Fox News television host. He's also President-elect Donald Trump's pick to lead the Pentagon. But there are growing doubts about his ability to get confirmed in the Senate. Hegseth spent yesterday meeting with lawmakers on Capitol Hill in an effort to shore up support. And he was defiant when asked about his prospects for confirmation. He told reporters he had spoken to Trump in the morning and that Trump told him, "I'm behind you all the way." But Trump is privately considering replacing him with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis or Florida Representative Michael Waltz. One issue standing in Hegseth's way is his history with alcohol. He says he turned to heavy drinking after his deployment to Iraq ended in 2006. As Secretary of Defense, he would lead a military that has severe penalties for being intoxicated on duty. Number 3. The Supreme Court seemed likely to uphold a state ban on treatment for trans minors. Yesterday, the High Court heard a case brought by 3 transgender teens, their parents, and a doctor. It was a challenge to Tennessee's ban on transgender care for minors. Members of the court's conservative majority seemed to suggest that this should be a state issue, but the 3 liberal justices implied the ban discriminates based on sex. Outside the court, protesters gathered to express their opinions on this issue. Lizette Trujillo has a transgender son and is an advocate for transgender youth in Arizona. She spoke to the Post about the case.
I really hope that the justices will see that the anti-trans legislation is unjust and discriminatory, and that they will continue to allow parents like myself to make these decisions privately with our medical care teams and without the state and or the federal government being intrusive in those decisions.
Whatever the court decides will affect the law in Tennessee and the 23 other states that have banned similar treatments in recent years. A ruling is expected by the end of June. Number 4. The French government collapsed after a no-confidence vote. Yesterday's motion was put forward by a left-wing alliance in France's parliament. But the swing votes of Marine Le Pen and her far-right lawmakers were key to its passage. The vote makes Prime Minister Michel Barnier's administration the shortest-serving government in the modern French Republic, and it's the first in 6 decades to be toppled by a no-confidence vote. Barnier is expected to resign today, leaving French President Emmanuel Macron to seek a new prime minister. The collapse has plunged the country into political chaos, and it comes just weeks after the collapse of the German government. That threatens to leave 2 of Europe's most powerful nations rudderless, just as Europe braces for Trump to assume office in the U.S. European leaders fear Trump could spark a trade war or slash aid for Ukraine. The Justice Department said Memphis police used systemic excessive force. That's our fifth story. In a scathing new report, federal authorities said they had identified a pattern of unlawful conduct in the Memphis Police Department. That includes serious problems in the way officers handle traffic stops and deal with children, as well as deficiencies in training, policies, and accountability of officers accused of misconduct. And the report said the department discriminates against Black people and disabled people. It follows a 17-month civil rights investigation. That was launched after Memphis police officers brutally and fatally beat Tyree Nichols, a 29-year-old Black man, after a traffic stop. The report came as Memphis officials publicly rebuffed efforts to place the city's police under federal supervision. Number 6. The price of Bitcoin rose above $100,000 for the first time. Since Donald Trump's election, the cryptocurrency's value has increased by about 40%. And yesterday, it crossed the key milestone of $100K. It followed Trump's announcement of Paul Atkins as his pick to lead the Securities and Exchange Commission. Atkins is a former federal regulator and an advocate for crypto. He's seen as much friendlier to crypto giants than the current SEC chairman. And at number 7, archaeologists found evidence of ancient friendships between humans and dogs. A 12,000-year-old shin bone found in Alaska may or may not have belonged to a dog. An analysis found that the creature ate a diet heavy in salmon, unlike ancient wolves from the region, which ate from the land. A new study argues that the creature was domesticated enough to be fed fish by humans, and that means it was more like a dog. The question of when wolves became dogs is a surprisingly controversial one. Wolves evolved into dogs with changes in how their bodies are built and in their genetics, and dogs were the first domesticated animal. But focusing solely on changes in DNA and dogs' bodies may miss out on the behaviors in between that helped produce these changes. This new discovery raises fresh questions about how and when dogs became man's best friend. Something to think about the next time your dog pesters you for food at the table. All right, you're all caught up. Now, our whole team is excited about Spotify Wrapped, the year-end list of favorites that rolled out yesterday. Many people use it to brag about their exquisite musical tastes, or to complain about their toddlers listening to Old MacDonald Had a Farm 8,000 times. I fall into the latter category. But there's something I want to know. Did the 7 make your list of favorite podcasts? If so, I would love it if you would take a moment and give us a 5-star rating on Spotify or wherever you're listening. That's a great way to help other listeners discover the show. I'm Hannah Jewell. I'll meet you back here tomorrow.